All right, it is Tuesday, which means it is time for Pete Prisco's Power Rankings presented by FanDuel and how things can change from week to week. Not the Kansas City Chiefs, though. They're still in that #1 spot. They're still undefeated. We have the Browns, who were followers. Maybe we had some too much faith in Jameis Winston, if you will. The Texans taking a big hit after losing to the Jets, falling 7 spots. The Cowboys down 5 spots to number 25. The biggest riser, though, that belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals, up 8 spots to number 17 after blowing out the Las Vegas Raiders. Kyle Long, Pete Prisco here. We're going to go down the rankings. Pete, you're going to justify your decisions. Kyle, any problems that you have, we're going to go through that as well. But we are starting with the Commanders because they finally cracked the top 5. And it seems like week after week we're like, okay, they're good, but are they for real? And I feel like at this point we can kind of say, okay, this is a legitimate team making moves at the trade deadline to make a serious push, Pete.
But we'll know more about them in the next 2 weeks, the Steelers and the Eagles, so we'll find out if they're legitimate or not. But I think they are. I think they've solved the quarterback position, and I always say it. Once you get the quarterback, he'll cure your ills, and he's curing their ills. The offensive line, major question going into the season, now becoming a really good group in front of them. They went out and signed veterans to help.
Winners.
Allegretti at left guard, your buddy, Biotic at center, and the left tackle, the rookie Coleman, been really good as their left tackle. There's so much improved on that unit that the offense flows. Then you go to the defensive side of the ball, bunch of young players making plays over there, getting better by the week. They still like to add a corner. We talked about that earlier. But I love where this team is heading. I think they're going to be tough to stop offensively. Terry McLaurin finally has a quarterback, and he's been as great as he's been in his career. I love where this team is going.
And you know what? You talked about the offensive line, and I'm glad you did. It was a question mark going into the year. And I think one thing with teams with a young quarterback and a young core that maybe haven't won previously, they need to lean on the expertise of guys who have won before. When I look at this offensive line in Washington, it's highlighted with Andrew Wiley at right tackle, Nick Allegretti. We talked about those two guys from the Chiefs. They know how to win. They know how to lean on a superstar quarterback. They've got that in Washington, so they have that. Dan Quinn, great leadership. They're right where they're supposed to be. I agree with where you have them in the rankings. There's some teams in that zip code that could all vie for the same spot, but the Commanders have earned being up here at the top of this list.
I did the offensive line for you.
Thank you.
I did that just
you know what? That's sweet.
Yeah, I did.
That's really sweet. I needed that.
I knew it.
1 week it's the O-line alarm, and the next week.
Well, he wasn't. We both defended that group, so I can't give the alarm. When somebody's playing bad and he defends them, that's when the alarm.
Okay, so no alarm needed just yet. Let's talk about the Chargers because they cracked the top 10, and we've seen the Harbaugh turnaround in one season before. I don't know if we can say that just yet, but it certainly looks like it's trending in that direction, perhaps. You do have them above the Texans and the Falcons, Pete. How come?
Well, the quarterback is playing great the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
And one concern I had about Jim Harbaugh was how would he take his philosophy of wanting to run the ball and mix it with a big, strong-arm quarterback like Justin Herbert? Would they render him useless? And they haven't. He's so smart, and they've done a great job the last 3 weeks, averaging over 300 yards passing. And really, when you look at the receiver group, they're starting to really come on. Quentin Johnson's starting to come on. And they can still run the ball. They're good on the offensive line. But they're the #1 scoring defense in the league. And granted, they haven't exactly faced a bunch of great offenses yet, but they've done a great job of mixing the young and the old, some young corners, some guys playing really good football. Elijah Molden playing good football. They get him from Tennessee. He's playing great on the back end. And they haven't even had a healthy Bosa yet. He's getting there. He's playing. But watch out when they get Mack and Bosa going again.
It's been cool watching this team. And to your point about Jim Harbaugh, are they able to take his MO and put it to the football field right away? Well, early in the season, our complaints about this Chargers team was they were just running the ball so much. We were wondering when the superstar quarterback was going to start throwing it. There wasn't a lot of trust with some of these guys outside. Now we're seeing Herbert being able to do the things he's done historically. Explosive, take the top off, be able to throw outside the numbers. He can do anything. Get him out on the move. Justin Herbert is a horse. The same way we talk about Josh Allen, Justin Herbert can get a lot of those same things done. Jim Harbaugh's done a great job. This team's scary. And obviously Minter's defense. Come on, man. They're fun to watch.
And Khalil Mack he's gotten something into him. He's playing like he was a young kid again. He's really having a good year. And once they, like I said, once they get Bosa going with him again, look out, because they have a quarterback who can throw it and pass rushers who can knock your quarterback down. And that's the way to win in this league.
All right, Chargers, one of the biggest risers, not the biggest, because as mentioned before, that belongs to the Bengals. They were up to number 17, moving 8 spots after Joe Burrow had 5 passing touchdowns, and he's still not satisfied with that, saying, I think we could be better, and they just completely blow out the Raiders. 8 spots, too much of a rise for you, Kyle?
You know what? No, we do our Goldilocks segment every week. This team is too high. This team is too low. This team is just right. Goldilocks. And I feel like this could have been a Goldilocks candidate for me. The Cincinnati Bengals, they're getting hot. We know what they have at the quarterback position. They've got a good pass rusher. They've got some weapons on the outside. You can never count these guys out until they're finally done. It's like one of those Halloween movies. You got to kill the bad guy while you can. And if you let him stick around, Joe Burrow's going to make you pay.
And they play the Ravens this week, so it's a big week for the Bengals, a big proving week for them. And remember, this is the game where Joe Burrow got hurt last year at Baltimore, and they were in that game. In fact, they were driving, I think, in that game, if I remember correctly, to take the lead, and he got hurt. So I love where this Bengals offense is. The defense has been a concern at times, but with what they're showing and their ability to score, it allows Hendrickson to go wild and that pass rush get going again. So that's the ideal formula for them. Score a lot of points, and they're hard to stop. Burrow's having a great year, by the way. He might be having his best year, which is saying something, but you have to be able to stop people, and if they can get points and score on people, they're going to be able to knock the quarterback down.
Turn it into a track meet. It's all about who has the ball last, right? Like we saw it last night with the Chiefs and the Bucs. I mean, give Joe Burrow the ball last, and I like our chances.
Ravens and Bengals will be a track meet.
Yeah, and we talked about them facing the Ravens. We saw the Steelers on the schedule as well, which is those AFC North matchups get a little wonky. We know that. Let's talk about the Jags and the Cowboys, because these are two teams that were minus 210 to make the playoffs if we go back to the summer, and now it looks like things are over for both of them. Is the season done for both of these teams, Pete?
They're finished. They're both finished. They're done. It's over. Start looking for new coaches, because you're going to have new coaches in both those spots. Maybe you should have a new general manager in Jacksonville. Well, you should have a new general manager in Jacksonville. Get rid of him. But he always somehow ends up surviving. I don't know. That's Trent Baalke. I have no idea. But this has been one of the biggest disappointments in terms of Jacksonville and Dallas that I saw coming. I thought the Cowboys would win the East. I was wrong about that. And I thought Jacksonville would be a playoff team. Jacksonville's roster probably not as good as I thought it was, but they have to change there, because they're in jeopardy of ruining that quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence has more drop passes in the last 3 years than any quarterback in the league. Last week he threw an interception. It was off the running back Trevor Etienne's hands. And when you look at that, you have to be able to catch the football, or else the mistakes all get magnified. I don't like the design of the offense. I think they targeted Brian Thomas 4 times last week, which makes no sense. And then they threw to a third-team running back with the game on the line on a wheel route. I said this on a show I was doing. You know what the Eagle fans did after the game? They went over on the other side of the stadium and put roses at Doug Peterson's statue that he has outside the stadium, because they were so thankful he called such a bad game.
I feel bad for both these groups, because they do have the quarterback. With Dak Prescott, I don't have a lot of complaints about his performance. He's been a stalwart there in Dallas. And for Trevor Lawrence, they have just had a failure to launch with him, whether it's the Urban Meyer sweepstakes or now with the Doug Peterson saga in Jacksonville. They've never had the answers. And I feel bad for those guys, because in the NFL, in order to win, you have to have a quarterback. Both these teams have quarterbacks. Both these teams find themselves at the bottom of the power rankings. You got to blow it up and start it over, man.
To your point, really quickly before we move on, I know we already talked about Mike McCarthy potentially getting out of there, Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson is there longer than I thought he would be, but when do these changes happen, in your opinion, for each team?
I don't think either one will make a change during the season.
Okay.
I just don't. That's not the MO of the owners. Jerry Jones, that's not who he is, and that's not what Shad Khan does, so I would be astounded if they do. But having said that, if things look like it, if you get a 45-0 game on your resume, then that could put the fan base really up in arms, and you might make a move.
Yeah, you lose your parking spot after one of those.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, Kyle, we certainly appreciate it. More to come from these guys. We're going through Pete Prisco's power rankings. Just a reminder, you can find those on CBSSports.com. You guys were both on the pod today, right?
Yeah, yes. Today we actually built the best guard out of today's guards in the NFL.
And we ended up with Kyle.
Yeah, it was just a picture of me.
Okay. No bias there.
Hey, he said it.
You said it too.
Yeah, he's pretty good, that guy.